Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson, how are you this week?
I am very good, thanks, Rod. Always good to be chatting to you. Always good way to start the week, actually.
And a good way to start the week is in the bathroom, getting ready for work, and what do you want people to do with their flushing?
Well, it's probably more what I want people not to do. We've had lots of stuff being put down the toilets lately, that's stuff that doesn't belong there. So, for example, wipes and cotton buds and sanitary products. And rather than go through a list of all the things not to put down the toilet, and that list is extensive, I'd rather talk about what you should put down the toilet. And it's pretty easy to remember, Rod. It's the 3 Ps. I only want toilet paper, pee and poo. If that's all that goes down the toilet, then we're all okay. What's been happening, though, is that we've got a gravity-fed system. Most sewage systems that I know across the world are all gravity-fed. And in our network of sewage, we've got gravity-fed through to pumping stations, which then finally ends up at the sewage treatment plant. But because it's gravity-fed, when you put other things down there that shouldn't go down there, it can get a bit clogged up. And we've had a few instances lately of the sewage system being clogged up before it gets out to the sewage treatment plant. But even when some of those things get to the sewage treatment plant, it's not great as well because it's going through a complicated system that's designed for toilet paper and pee and poo, not designed for other things. We even get plastic bags put down the system, Rod, and that's a bit of a problem because they get clogged up very easily. So I'm asking for the residents to help me out here. Just put down paper, pee and poo, and then everything's okay.
No goldfish.
No goldfish, that's right.
Bury
the goldfish. You want to put a cross in the backyard with your goldfish.
Yes, definitely. Much more nice way to send your pet off. Senseless vandalism to cost community thousands.
It will cost us thousands, probably tens of thousands to repair this. This is out at Tom Colkin Oval in Geary. And it's disappointing when you see vandalism. It's really hurting everyone in the community, so it is a bit disappointing, a bit annoying when it happens. And so we'll cover those repairs. Obviously, that's what will happen. But we do also have a reward. This is something we introduced years ago. If you know about someone that's done some vandalism on council property, we've got a reward, $2,500. Now, it's got to lead to the conviction of a person who's committed some damage. But again, that's something that some people know about. You might hear someone talking at the pub basically boasting about what they've done, which I just find incredible that people would boast about it. But if you know about it, then certainly dob them in. We'll follow through a process. If we get a conviction, you can pick up $2,500. And that's a lot cheaper, Rod, than what it will cost us to repair a lot of the vandalism that does occur.
And sadly, you can replace a sail or a toilet or whatever gets damaged. But when it comes to public art, that is really hard to replace.
Exactly right. When you get someone who just sprays a bit of paint over some public art or goes and just does some graffiti over things as well, you're right. We've got this beautiful public art there in a range of places, and if you just go and spray some paint over it or create some vandalism over the top of that, then it's pretty hard to replace that in its original format.
You community leaders are getting together again this week?
Well, this might be one of the things we talk about this Saturday. We've got our unique community leaders meeting. Nowhere else in the nation does this happen. Not even in Burke do we see this sort of thing happen, where we've got the 3 levels of government, local, state and federal, standing side by side in an open forum on a regular basis. It happens in Dubbo, it happens in Wellington, so it is something that is unique across the nation. This Saturday is the next time it's happening in Wellington at the Rotary Markets. We're there from 9am to 11am. We invite the public to come along and talk to us about whatever you want to talk to us about. That's the beauty of this whole forum is there's no set agenda. You can bring forward any ideas, any questions, any issues, and you've got all 3 levels of government, so we can't palm it off to another level of government.
Great. Where's that again?
It's at the Rotary Markets in Wellington from 9am to 11am this Saturday.
And today you're handing out a few cheques?
We've got our next round of the Community Services Fund cheque presentation. We've already made the resolution, so we've determined who's going to receive this money, and all those organisations know about it. But today is the official handover. And I really enjoy the handover, Rod. It's always nice and exciting to hand over a cheque, nice big novel cheque. Of course, the money's already in their bank account, but we need to hand over the cheque for the photos as well. But what I also do to all of those groups is I say, in front of other similar groups, other organisations. Tell us what you're going to do with this money. And I sit back in awe at how they're going to use this money to do great things in our community. And I always sit back and think, wow, what they're doing with that money is incredibly efficient. They take a small amount of money and seem to do incredible things with it. Loaves and fishes come to mind when I think about these community groups and what they do with their money. So it is quite nice to hear what they're going to do with that money, but it's also good for those community groups to talk to each other, and sometimes they'll come up with some ideas to work together on different projects. So great little project for all those groups, but also nice to see them, what they're doing with that money.
And that's happening today. And now there was a new residence welcoming ceremony.
We did do that last week. We take the opportunity to say to people, you've moved to Dubbo, welcome. This is your new home. And I like to hear where people have come from. I like to hear about things in terms of why they've come to Dubbo, a whole range of different reasons. And so we had people coming from Melbourne. We had people coming from the Philippines. We had people coming from South Africa. And that was a tricky one. I did a quick interview with the person that I found that was moving from South Africa. And this was last Wednesday night. The next night, of course, was South Africa playing Australia in the cricket. And I did say, who are you going for? That was a pretty tricky question for that particular person. He did say Australia. He didn't know that a few days later Australia would beat India in the World Cup final, but he was on a winner, I told him at the time. Totally confident that Australia would win the World Cup final on Sunday after they'd beat South Africa the next night. So it is one of those things that it's amazing where people come from and amazing why people move to Dubbo in the end. The correct answer when I say why'd you move is because of the great council and the great mayor, but they have other reasons apparently too, Rod, for moving to Dubbo.
I'm sure they're all saying that. Now we're talking with the Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson. What did you get out of the New South Wales local government meeting last week?
Well, I got a new acronym that we can use. We had one presentation by Mark McCrindle. He's a demographer, and he told me, or told the audience, about an acronym that's really important about where parents and where kids are choosing to live at the moment. And the acronym was KIPPERS, KIPPERS, Kids in Parents' Pockets Eroding Retirement Savings. This is a big thing at the moment. Kids are staying at home until their late 20s, maybe early 30s, because it's so hard for them to afford to buy their own place. And this is particularly in Sydney and Melbourne at the moment. So that gives me a bit of confidence that we can still attract some of those people out of Sydney, for example, and get them to live in a regional location like Dubbo, because they might be able to afford to buy a house in Dubbo. They're not going to be able to do that in Sydney for a long time. So that was important. We got a bit of a discussion from the local government minister, Ron Honig. So he gave us some indication about things that might be happening in there. And of course, lots of debate around various motions that are going to eventually go forward and form policy. And it really stuck out to me that there is a divide with the 128 councils in the state. You've got some of the inner Sydney councils, Sydney City Council, for example, Randwick City Council, Northern Beaches Council, some of those inner Sydney councils, and some of the things they focus on compared to mainly regional councils, but also many other councils. We've got to do things like treat water, treat sewage. We've got to do lots of roads, thousands of kilometres of roads. We've got big areas to cover. Dubbo Regional Council, 7,536 square kilometres. We've got airports and childcare centres and a whole range of different business facilities, livestock markets. When you get to some of those inner Sydney councils, they don't have all those different things to look after. Sydney City Council alone generates over $50 million a year from their parking meters and parking station. Some of those councils, they don't really understand all the challenges that we've got in regional areas. So that became obvious during the debate, and I think it became obvious to many people in the room during the debate. So you learn some things, you get a bit frustrated with things, but you mainly share information with colleagues, and I think that's the real value of a conference like that.
Yes, I'd like to get into some of that discussion in regards to housing and home affordability and what could be done to get on top of it. One thing is to look at what our neighbouring places are like, where you got 3 and 4 generations of people always living together.
You're absolutely right. You look at some countries around the world, and I think Japan's a good example where you do have people that look after their various generations. In Australia, it seems like we want to live with our parents until we're in our 30s now to take advantage of some of the money they might have, but then it doesn't take long, a couple of decades later, we're pushing them out the door and putting them into an aged care facility. So that might be an option. And you've seen, I might have talked about this before, Rod, but we've seen an erosion of the number of people in the average household. over the last 110 years, it's gone from about 4.5 people per household down to 2.5 people per household. Maybe we could increase those numbers again by keeping some of those parents or grandparents in the house.
They're good to have around, those grandparents. Now, what is it Dubbo Regional Council doing for Christmas?
Well, we're doing some media, we just did a media launch around our shop local this Christmas. And so that was last Friday, where we've got some concepts, if you like, a few different things there. One is spend some money with a local business. We've got 168 businesses that have registered so far. Spend some money in one of those businesses, put your name in the draw, and you could win up to $5,000 of a share of My Dubbo Region cards. So that's like a gift card that you can spend back in those 168 shops. We've also got a colouring in competition. I do apologise, Rod, in advance. We've got a few different age brackets in there, but it only goes up to a maximum age of 12, so there's no open category for you and I, sorry. And we've also got a Find Your Elf, an elf hunter program. And basically you've got a number of shops with a picture of an elf stuck in the window. There's a name on that elf. You can pick up either online or one of our visitor centres, pick up a little sheet that's got 10 elves on there. You've got to go around and find the names of 10 of those elves that are out there around the CBD of Wellington and Dubbo, and then take that into the Dubbo or Wellington Visitor Information Centre, and there's no going to draw or anything. You take in that with 10 names there. If they're correct, you'll pick up a prize straight away, and that's for kids only too. Sorry, Rod.
Right, and you got a big tree?
We've got a big tree, of course. Sorry, that goes without saying. We've got a big tree in both Wellington and Dubbo. Big tree right at the rotunda there and at the Visitors Information Centre there in Wellington. So again, just to get in the Christmas spirit, celebrate the fact that we've got Christmas on. I don't think you can forget that we've got Christmas on, but it's nice to be part of that Christmas spirit.
Yes, I love my Christmas. It's a good time of year. Get out and support your local businesses. Our Thursday is Dubbo Day.
Dubbo Day on Thursday. Back in 1849, the 23rd of November was the official gazettal of Dubbo as a village. Now, fast forward to 1999, the sesquicentenary of Dubbo was celebrated. And one of the things that was celebrated on that day was the fact that we had all these wonderful people doing great work in our community, behind the scenes, quiet achievers. So we gave out a range of awards and they became known as Dubbo Awards. Now, we only did it as a one-off that year, but a couple of years later, there was some discussion at council and people said, well, gee, that was nice to recognise some of those people. Maybe we should do that every year. Hence, Dubbo Day Awards were born, and so now on the 23rd of November every year, we celebrate some of those quiet achievers. We're doing it again this Thursday. We've got a number of people we're going to recognise in the community, working away, making Dubbo the great place that it is. That'll be held at the zoo, which is one of our great facilities here, and that's something, again, that we do every year. So if people in the public want to come along to the zoo on Thursday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll be handing out those awards.
Wonderful. Happy Dubbo Day on Thursday. And my favourite word, one of my two favourite words, sesquicentenary. Oh, the joy, 150 years.
All you've got to do if you get pulled over for a random breath test on the side of the road, forget about blowing into a bag. Just say to the person, pronounce sesquicentenary correctly. If you can do that, you haven't been drinking.
This is true. Have a good week.
Thank you very much, Rod.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.